If only you could hear what we talked about before this video. Love it or hate it
Yeah.
is what we're talking about right now. FSU football recruiting. Michael Langston with an excellent article that you can find if you're a subscriber to warchant.com. More on that in a little bit. But he's got positions he likes, hates, and ones he wonders about in FSU's 2026 recruiting cycle. That total article will be linked at the bottom of this video. We're going to play a game just like that, though. It's called Love It or Hate It. I'm going to give Michael a position of interest in Florida State recruiting, and then we're going to see if he loves it or he hates it. Very simple game. You got the
Yeah.
rules, everybody? If you got the rules, hit the thumbs up button at the bottom of the video. Here we go with senior recruiting analyst Michael Langston. Michael, I'm going to start with, from a recruiting standpoint for Florida State, the safety position. Love it or hate it?
Yeah, I love it. I love it a lot, actually. I think there's a lot to love. Certainly you have a lot of targets like Caden Hall, who I think FSU's at the near the top for out of Milton, who Tom knows really well, Milton High School,
Oh, yeah.
in the Panhandle, and then you certainly have Lasiah Jackson, another 4-star. You even had one that visited, on the first day of spring practice, in C.J. Bronaugh, who's committed to Nebraska, but I think FSU has a very good shot, for a flip there. I guess break out your spatula or whatnot. But I think overall, just the board looks really good. I think both Evan Cooper, Tony White, and even Patrick Surtain helping with this position as well have really done a great job of really, setting the tone. And I feel very comfortable. You already have a commitment from Tadarius Hughes, who you can kind of list as like a corner or safety. I just think overall you feel good about that position. Two guys already committed there. You're likely only going to take like maybe one or two more. So I think you feel really good about, hey, I could see them nailing this position really well. It's not going to be a problem. They certainly the message they're putting out is resonating highly with a lot of recruits. It shows with the amount of guys they're having coming in, both for the official visits and just in general with spring visits. There's a lot of excitement and buzz about what they're going to do with their defensive backs. I think in this Tony White system, that's the thing I've heard a lot from safeties of, yeah, I like what they do with his safety prospects and the way they move them around, and whether they're defensive back, whether it's safety or corner, you just hear so much buzz about the fit and just the excitement level of kind of the different things that the freedom that a safety would get in this defense, and just the excitement level about FSU in general. I think it's been very strong at this position.
That sounds like it's on brand, and here's what I mean by that, Michael. When I was talking to Sean Callahan of Husker Online, from where a lot of these coaches came from, Nebraska, the Matt Rule group that was over there at Nebraska, he said that Evan Cooper, when he was on the ground at Nebraska, was a recruiting junkie, and that he lived it. He's always watching kids huddle. He's always watching tape, reaching out to people. It sounded like back in the day, you go back farther than I do, but it reminded me of things that I heard from an Eddie Gran. Like Eddie Gran had a very systematic approach of looking at kids' films, reaching out. He had email days, specific day, because in those days they weren't texting as much, or direct messaging. But he had everything was built out, and you could tell he lived it. It seems to me that it would make sense that Evan Cooper, being a safeties coach, being a recruiting junkie, Florida State would be pretty good at recruiting this specific spot.
You would think so. Just the fact that it happened so quickly, I think, was really impressive to me. And just the fact that they already have some secure guys in there. Now, these guys are going to take visits like Tadarius Hughes and Daryl Bell. Obviously, both committed to FSU. They're going to take visits. But just to have those guys already in the fold, I think it's a big deal. Now, these guys, Cooper didn't have anything to do with that. But the point is, when you have that, it makes it easier to transition to the guys that you're certainly targeting. And to be honest, there's been a different vibe around even one of their top guys in Caden Hall when it's FSU ever since Cooper's been added to the staff, and even since they added Tony White as the defensive coordinator. So there is an impact you feel already. It's certainly one where you have to show it on the field, but overall, I like I really like what I'm seeing at that safety position.
Now we get to the other side of the equation. Maybe, I don't know, you could love this. You could, or maybe I just spoiled it if you're really paying attention. Let's get to defensive tackle, staying on the defensive side of the ball. What do you think, Michael? Love it or hate it?
Right now, I hate it because I just don't feel like there's enough valuable. One, you don't see the volume of targets so far, and we kind of experienced that a little bit last year. But I don't think it's like a cause for set off the red alert farms and sound the sirens or stuff like that because as we see as this thing goes on late in the spring, there's going to get a lot of visits in March and April, so I'm not panicking, but it's not something I like. You like what you see because of there's not like a lot of targets where I feel like, hey, they're going to get this guy. You have guys that people know about, as far as that we've covered, and it covers in the story some of the guys that they're looking at. I think James Johnson certainly was one of the top ones they had, but we haven't heard much about a spring visit there. It seems like Georgia is the team that is certainly the highest. I think Miami and other schools will be in there, but I think overall that position, I'm not seeing enough where, and it's not that recruits aren't excited about what Terrence Knighton does, the way he talks to them, and different things, because we see the amount of visits that he's getting kids on to come here that are not just the defensive tackle position, but the edge position. He's doing a really good job of getting them on there. But you want to see a larger scale of volume when it comes to the
Mm-hmm.
defensive tackle position of what they're pursuing. And I know that's going to change when we get to the summer. There'll be a lot more guys on that list that I mentioned some of them in the article, but as I said, there's not one that I can say like, hey, FSU stands out, you know, as one of the favorites for this guy yet. Certainly, they have important visits in the spring that you can read on that and that glorious story. But overall, I think they just have to really there has to be more of a substance and a larger widening than that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Having done some sales in my life, the funnel, you got to have a lot of stuff in the funnel.
Yeah.
You got to throw a lot of numbers at it, and then some people are going to click and fit. But I hear you on that. Maybe the numbers need to come up a little bit.
Yeah.
Love it, hate it. I'll give you an out. Do you want something else? Edge rusher,
Yes.
defensive end. It's the same thing, everybody. It could be edge in all caps. It could be defensive end. It could be it's the same position. What do you think about that one?
I would put that one as I like. I like it. It's just one I wonder about because it's like there are a ton of really good edge guys that they've certainly positioned them for. Trenton Henderson is one that's officially visiting. Cam Brooks is another one. These are both one either in state or close to home local ones. I think Cam Brooks is one that they've done a really good job this spring, really putting themselves back in the picture of of making an impact of how he would fit into this, certainly this new defensive look. I think Trenton Henderson's always been one that's had FSU very high on his list. FSU gets the last visit in the summer as well for him on June 20th with the official visit. So there's a lot of, I think you see a high volume. I think Jake Cruel, IMG Academy, 4-star visited visits in the spring as well. So you see there's a lot of volume with these prospects, and you see that the way where they stand in those recruitments that you feel. That's why I say I like it because you feel like okay, they're going to hit on some guys right here because one, you can really sell the pitch of playing time and impact early, and then two, FSU's history with the position of certainly a Jared Verse and different guys that have done really well on the defensive line in the edge position. I think you can really sell that over the years of what FSU's done, and you can sell what they've done at Nebraska recently as far as prospects. I think it sells itself. So I think this isn't going to be a hard one. I think for me to see sell or grow. I think FSU will feel pretty confident. When they get their signing class from February, it feels like they're going to get probably not get everyone they want, but they're going to get a majority of the guys that they covet. Certainly what they do with a lot of these guys as far as development is going to be something that I think a lot of these edge guys will watch. But overall, I think they're set in position to make a big impact.
Well, and that's something that's worth remembering too. They closed strong in the last cycle. Getting Tylon Lee to flip and getting Jesse Harold to flip. So Florida State's off to a good start there. I'm going to ask you about the defensive line coach. I know you mentioned him in just a second, but before I do, time's running out, everybody. This week only is when we have this particular spring special sale for warchant.com access. If you want to be a member of the largest FSU fan community in the business and you want to talk recruiting on the premium recruiting board, you want to talk Florida State team content, the tribal council, you want to mix it up with Noles like you, well, join us at a wonderful discount at warchant.com. Here it is, everybody. Save over 50% off an annual membership. We're calling it the Buck a Week special. 52 bones for 12 months of access to warchant.com, and we're going to incentivize it even more. We're going to give you $20 to Garnet and Gold, Florida State's last locally owned Florida State, or sorry, I should say in the industry, the last locally owned Florida State apparel store there is. So you're supporting a Nole-owned business. We're giving you money to do that, and you're getting over 50% savings at warchant.com. It is a no-brainer. Head over to Warchant, top right corner. You'll see the green button that says join, and then you get to interact with Michael Langston one-on-one on the PRB. Isn't that very nice?
There you go.
There it is. So, Michael, Terrence Knighton, pot roast.
Pot
He's as cool at the luncheon on Monday. He's as cool as I thought he was going to be. Really funny guy, affable. Seems to be he has the makings of an excellent recruiter. So you have a like at edge. You have a not so good at defensive tackle.
Yeah.
What's going on here? How do you jive those two things together?
Yeah, it's a thing where with edge, I think there's so many guys, whereas like defensive tackle, it feels like a very exclusive position where I think with edge, I think it's easier to sell because there's a lot of different ways you can use an edge. Whereas defensive tackle, it's kind of like nose tackle, inside. Whereas edge is kind of you can do the strong side, you can do the weak side. You have a linebacker that does different things that you could use as an edge. So I think there's a lot of different examples that you could use with edge that I think really is just easier to sell. And I think we've known this for a while. FSU's had trouble recruiting the defensive tackle position, and to establish your brand, you have to show some stuff that's going to get people interested in that product. As far as what you've done, at Nebraska, and I think the personality of Terrence Knighton is really an effective tool that's going to be big for FSU. I think it'll really pick up, in my opinion, late in the spring and probably in the summer, where people get to see kind of what this guy is like, the connection. Because I've already sensed that whenever he's on the road recruiting and you talk to recruits, there's a different thing when he's there. Like there's a strong relationship. This is a guy that's played in college, went to the pros, played in the pros, came back, wanted to coach in college, wants to mentor kids and help them, give them his knowledge that he went through, and the way he interacts with that knowledge, I think is really impactful. I've already seen that a lot with a lot of it connects with a lot of recruits, even ones they probably don't land. I think you saw that even with top recruit James Johnson when he came here just for a spring visit. That was his first time meeting him. There was a personal connection that was felt immediately. So when he's around, it's like his personality is infectious of people being able to resonate with him in a really quick manner. So if you're around him a lot and you trust him a lot, I think it speaks to that. I think it also speaks to the fact that James Williams, who came over from Nebraska, that he's followed him everywhere, or has followed him over here. I think that speaks to his value of that relationship and why he's so good at relationships and why these guys view him in the way they do. I don't think defense tackle is going to be a problem, but I do think it's going to be a slower process than the other positions because you have to establish what you are. I think recruits just need to see it.
You want to see the full article that Michael wrote? It is available at the bottom of this video in the comments section. And if you click on it and it says you can't look at it, well, that's why we told you how to sign up for warchant.com. It says, sign up today. Well, there you go. This is what you want right here, everybody. $20 to Garnet and Gold on top of already 50% savings on an annual membership. It's the spring special. It expires this Sunday, so act now. Michael, thank you as always for the time, and look forward to getting your updates this weekend right here on Warchant TV.